This is we've got about 2 minutes on your cut here, and then we'll come back. I'll hit the top of the hour ID, and then we'll talk for a little bit.
Great.
Cool.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Watch out for that ending. That's an abrupt ending there. Nicole Zuraitis, 20 Seconds, the name of that tune. That coming from her brand new Spiffed Up, Nicole Zuraitis and Friends, live at Vic's Las Vegas Deluxe Edition. That came out last week on the La Reserve label. Now, sometimes these deluxe editions come out, and you're like, well, where's the there? Where's the there? Where's the beef? But there really is some good additional stuff on this one, and so I'm glad that I've got Nicole here ready and willing to talk about it in just a second. That was a tune originally written for 2023's Grammy-winning How Love Begins. It's a Zuraitis original. In this particular context, Nicole was joined by Edan Morim on guitar, her husband Dan Pugach on drums, Samuel Weber bass, Keon Harold on trumpet. Yes, indeed. Recorded live at Vic's in Las Vegas in early June of this year. It's amazing how quickly these live recordings can go from actually being played to like us hearing them now. It's like it didn't used to be that way. Now they can come out. They're coming out like in weeks and months. You know, it's like the video. Remember the video store back in the day, Nicole, where like a movie would be in the theaters and then it would take months and months and months and months for it to be in the video store, and now you get it instantaneously. And we're kind of getting that way with the music live albums, which is interesting. I digress. Before that, we heard the Dan Pugach Big Band featuring Nicole Zuraitis. That's a tune titled Little Fears, and it's a tune co-written by the husband and wife team, Pugach and Zuraitis, and a tune nominated for Best Jazz Performance at this past year's Grammy. So that's pretty cool, featuring a tenor sax solo by the great Troy Roberts. This is Breaking Jazz, bringing you the musicians of the moment, jazz as it's being played today here on KSDS Jazz 88.3. I'm going to hit the top of the hour ID right here, and then we will return with a fun and enthralling conversation with the great multi-Grammy winner, Nicole Zuraitis. Right back after this.
A broadcast service of City College and the San Diego Community College District. This is Jazz FM 88.3, KSDS San Diego.
Nicole, it's so good to have you. I've been such an admirer for a while now, and an admirer, a fan, and I just think you're wonderful. I play your music on Breaking Jazz all the time, and it's a real treat to have you.
Oh my gosh, Matt, you're making my day. Wow, my dog just shook the minute that I had to speak. Because I know that you have an unbelievable ear and an open ear and open heart. So that means so much. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, observing from afar, as I have, this is the first time we're actually meeting or speaking, but the last couple of years you've had, wow. I mean, I think people who followed contemporary jazz and jazz adjacent happenings, they generally knew you or knew of your name from the arrangement of Jolene that you and Dan had done prior to the pandemic. But with How Love Begins, that seems to have kind of changed everything, right?
No, it was a complete game changer for me, and a very interesting learning curve, because I've been playing in New York City for 20 years, but I just wasn't ever making something that was like catching fire. And for How Love Begins, I wrote the album with the intention of fitting into the jazz box, as opposed to before when I was just writing whatever I heard, which is a big mixture, a big pot of all types of things in the soup. And so I purposely was like, I need to write something that I know can pay tribute to the tradition of jazz while also being original music, while also utilizing people that I've made connections and friendships with over the last 20 years in New York City. That's how I got Christian McBride on there. So it's been a wild 2 years, and I am unbelievably grateful, just unbelievably grateful, because, you know, it's not easy being an independent artist.
No doubt. And you know, the record, How Love Begins, is so incredible. And I think it will create opportunities for you, and already has, to do amazing more and more amazing work. But I'm wondering if I can take you back to the recording sessions, and when you're in the studio and you go back and you listen back to what you've recorded, was there ever that moment of like, you know, holy crap, I think maybe we've got something here that could be a big deal?
I think the only time I felt that any sort of like, oh my gosh moment is when it was the first day of recording, and we had Billy Kilson, Gilad Hexelman, and Christian McBride. And Christian had said, you should play the piano, Nicole, on the record. I said, why would I play the piano when you can get anyone else? And he's like, you know, Carole King plays the piano. You wrote all the songs. And that moment for me was when we were recording Reverie, and I was like comping for Gilad on piano while Christian played bass and Billy was playing drums. And I'm going, how did I even get here? How did this even happen? And when I was listening back, I remember thinking, okay, well, this doesn't suck. This is good. This is good. Which is not my normal opinion of myself.
Oh, you're a tough critic. The great ones so often are. And of course, when people think of you, I think their first impression of you is as a vocalist. But as I mentioned in my opening to the show tonight, is that you're the first person to have written and arranged every track of a Grammy-winning jazz vocal album. And the one question I had is, how gratifying is the recognition you're getting as a songwriter, as a storyteller, as opposed to just, well, you know, she sings her ass off. Absolutely. But there's something, how different is that compliment about your compositional chops?
Wow. I love that question. No one's ever asked me that question. I think for me, I found that being a songwriter was the Achilles heel for me for many years, because, you know, I easily could just sing standards and love that, but it just wasn't. I didn't feel the same passion as I did when I played a song that maybe was original or. But the problem is that there wasn't a lane for the music that I was writing. And I still feel like I am single-handedly starting to like carve this lane for what I like to call modern songbook or jazz singer-songwriter. Because even if you look at the polls in jazz, etc., they have composer but they don't have songwriter. You know, all the composers don't have lyrics most of the time. And there's kind of this stigma against a catchy melody in jazz or repetitive rhyme scheme. Or, I mean, I don't quite understand. And so when I won the Grammy for How Love Begins, I was like, oh my gosh, this is not a win for me. This is a win for all the songwriters in the genre, because there is an audience for it. It might, you know, the Grammys is small. It's peer-based recognition. And with an artist like Leve taking off, who writes all her own music, you know, say what you will about whether she's jazz or not, but I'm like, there is an audience for original music that is also like earworms. And I think that the music used to be the pop music of the day for a reason, and that we shouldn't shy away from melodies that are memorable in jazz, because that's how we're going to get the audience and make sure that it continues on for years to come. And I know that you're all about, innovation. That's your whole platform.
Yeah, no, I want to get into that very thing in just a minute, and I really do. Literally everything you addressed is I want to come back to that in more detail. But among the things I love about you, your range of repertoire is freaking massive. So right now, I just want to go to your take on a classic from the Great American Songbook. You're talking about those memorable melodies that were once pop tunes in the mid-century that were basically the muse for the forefathers and foremothers of jazz improvisation. And then when we come back, I want to get your thoughts on what a growing number of people have started to call the new American Songbook, which I think that you're one of the great sort of champions of. So let's go right now to your latest live album, Nicole Zuraitis and Friends, live at Vic's Las Vegas, was released in early August on the La Reserve label. We play so many of the great artists from that label. And this is a tune originally written by Hoagie Carmichael. You're going to recognize it when I announce the name. Dan Pugach on drums, Sam Weber on bass. Watch out for Idan Morim, featured here on guitar. This is Nicole Zuraitis with The Nearness of You, and it's Breaking Jazz.
The nearness of you. Las Vegas.
Back here on Breaking Jazz, that was Nicole Zuraitis and her take on Hoagie Carmichael's The Nearness of You, coming from her latest live release, Nicole Zuraitis and Friends, live at Vic's Las Vegas, released back in the end of August on the La Reserve label. And one of the things, just listening to that take, one of the things that really stands out is your joy, the joy that you have when you perform, not just in the way you sort of address the crowd at the end of it, but there's a little part right when your bassist starts to take his solo and he quotes Swinging on a Star, and you just have this like very knowing laugh, and it's just, I don't know, it makes, as a listener, it makes you enjoy the music more, that you can hear and feel how much you and your bandmates enjoy playing together.
Best compliment I've gotten in a while. Thank you. I really do feel the joy when it's happening, and I don't even hear those little things that you just pointed out. But yeah, you're right. I'm very effusive. Everyone knows how I feel at all times. Yeah. So generally on stage, if I'm happy, people know, and I'm glad that it comes through on the record. That's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So we hear your takes on the Great American Songbook staples, like the one we just heard, or on Willow Weep for Me. I'll get to that later in the show tonight. And your fluency and penchant for saying something new with that repertoire, that speaks for itself. We just heard it. But you've also become one of the leading interpreters, if not the leading interpreter, of, I think, what I said, what I'll call, or you maybe coined it, I don't know who coined it, but the new American Songbook. And to put a finer point on it, we hear you doing tunes by Dolly Parton, Joni Mitchell, Stevie Nicks, Bobby Gentry. There's a sort of pop folk sound, often with just a touch of a country tinge that you seem to love interpreting in a jazzier context. And I don't think that there's anyone presently doing that particular thing as well and as thoughtful as you. And there's a question here, I promise. Obviously, you feel a strong connection to these tunes and the artists who wrote them. I know that. But is there any thought that another potential benefit of doing these tunes is the opportunity to present familiar lyrics and melodies to segments of music listeners who otherwise probably wouldn't have gravitated towards jazz, at least as they perceive jazz to be?
Yeah, I sometimes joke that I'm the, and I don't someone said, you can't say that, Nicole. I say I'm the gateway drug to jazz.
Yes. Yes, I say that all the time. I say that at the radio station, and I believe that we, in a most benign way, are drug dealers, and that it is our job, part of our job here, in terms of being custodians of this thing in some small way that we are. I mean, you have more impact as a musician, but like in terms of trying to get something that we love, get people interested in something that we love. Yeah, we're drug. I will absolutely. The gateway drug thing is something I say literally all the time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think when I was young and I started to try and get into jazz, I first heard, you know, I'm like a textbook story. I heard Ella Fitzgerald sing. I was like, wow, that's amazing. I want to do that. And then I went to a jazz camp and I was like, I don't want to do this. This is terrible. I'm like, why does every song last 25 minutes? Why is everyone playing so fast? Where's the melody? Like, I really felt that way as a kid. I was like, this is not what I want to do. And I went back. That was when I was a trombone player. And I went back the next year as a piano player. And not only did I not understand the music, but I also felt like a crippling fear to improv. And I think I still loved the art form. Like, I was still listening to Bill Evans and Miles Davis and, you know, Ella Fitzgerald and Nat King Cole and Ray Charles. And I was listening to all this music and just thinking, well, why can't I do that? I want to do that type of jazz. And so but I also was obsessed with the songwriters, Stevie Wonder, Carole King, Joni Mitchell, the list goes on. And then Dolly Parton, country songs, you know, musical theater, the whole thing. And so when you say, you know, I do country and bring people to jazz through familiar songs, maybe that was my like little rebellion, my accidental rebellion, where I was going, well, I have now all these chops from studying the language of jazz, but I love the storytelling of folk, pop, rock. I mean, it's all rooted in the same place, all rooted from BAM. So why not? Why not? It never even occurred to me that it wasn't a normal thing to do, because I played everything by ear. I feel like I'm rambling. Like I said before, I had a rough day traveling back from Chicago. It was horrible.
No, you're good. You're killing it.
Yeah, I think there's just, it didn't occur to me that it wasn't normal. But I also, since I played everything by ear, was just playing what I heard. And it happened to be jazzy. And I didn't go to school for jazz. I'm not like a trained Berkeley. I didn't go to the Monk Institute or Betty Carter or all that stuff. I just learned by listening. And it took me a longer time than everybody else. And I embarrassed myself a lot along the way. But it's just like what just came out of my body. Yeah.
And it dovetails so perfectly, because that's kind of what I wanted to follow up with, which is, as long as audiences are connecting with your music, does it matter to you whether those audiences are understanding that music as jazz per se? I mean, to my mind, what you're doing is quintessentially jazz, as I said before, in the same way that Broadway and Tin Pan Alley, those songbooks of the mid-century was the muse for the musicians we think of as the forebears of this music. So, but does it matter really whether your music is understood as jazz or just that it's understood as great music?
Wow, that is such a loaded question. I have so many gut instincts. And my first response is that, yes, it matters to me that it's jazz, because I have a total chip on my shoulder from being told, oh, she's not a jazz singer, for so many years. And when I was just going, yes, I am. Stop. Just stop. Enough. Like, just what are you talking about? And so it matters to me from the chip perspective, but it also matters to me from just like loving the art form and the tradition and the culture and the importance and the history of it. It matters to me in that way. But then the other side of the coin is that I do also, just like you, believe good music is good music, and I just want an audience. And so the vessel for me so far to find my audience has been through jazz. And it was difficult, like I mentioned at the beginning, because I wasn't doing anything like cookie cutter. I wasn't straight ahead jazz. I wasn't singing standards. I wasn't doing esoteric, like strange, heady nerd jazz. Sorry, I don't mean to say it like that. But I just wasn't, I didn't have a lane. So I've been carving this lane, carving this lane, carving this lane. And the most important thing for an artist is an audience. Awards are great, but I desperately want to reach people with the music. And so I'm thrilled to have the lane of jazz to find the people. So it does matter to me.
And I think that what you've hit on, whether intentionally or not, is a lane within a lane. Like it's not just that you're attracted to, I mean, your originals are unbelievable. I mean, the acclaim you've gotten for them speaks to that. But it's not just that you're interpreting the pop tunes of the last 50 years. It's that you're interpreting a certain like a certain slice of them. They not that they're all the same, but when I hear like the Bobby Gentry, the Dolly Parton, the Abby Lincoln is in there. I don't know. There seems something musically and genetically to be similar about the type of new American songbook standard that you are attracted to.
Yeah, maybe all of them have that deep-rooted pain and suffering. I guess they all kind of come from that's an interesting observation.
I like that, and I'll tell you why I like that. And I of course will not mention names of contemporary vocalists who are your peers, but like one thing that I see is that like someone sounds great, but it doesn't sound as though they've experienced pain in their life. And to me, that's what the tradition, that's a big part of it. And if you can't communicate despair and a relationship that has broken you, or something that has, I don't know, there's something about being able to communicate that particular sense of a darker side of the human experience that is a requirement for being a three-dimensional, fully rounded vocalist in this particular.
I love that. I
medium.
tell my students this all the time. Like, please don't sing "Lush Life" unless you've been through it. Like Billy Strayhorn had kind of been. He was young when he wrote it, but like he kind of also went through it, so like it makes sense. And for me, I think that the change in my career happened later in my life because of just that. I just had a lot more to say, a lot more opinions. I had more tribulations that I, lived through and survived through. And, the next record that I'm making right now, my studio album is called The Devil I Knew. And it's in 5 different parts, and it's not only about, how someone has treated you, but also realizing that you can also be the villain in your own story. And so like there's a full spectrum to the voice that comes just by living. And I don't mind that people say like, oh, she came out of nowhere. I'm like, yeah, she's 40. She came out of nowhere. It's like, oh yeah, I was just born yesterday. Do me a favor. It's a really strange place. But I have a lot to say.
I think that it could potentially bring a good amount of people, maybe even trying to break through it, a lot of hope, in the sense that you ought to wait until you've gone through some, not that you ought to wait, but that there is this sort of process of developing as a sort of having something interesting or profound to say, that like if you've been rejected now doesn't mean I don't know, your time will come, I guess,
Yeah.
as I struggle to articulate that idea. But I have one more question for you, and this is something I've thought a lot about. First, how much music do you listen to? What have you been digging lately? And finally, and most importantly, would you say that a consistent practice of listening to music is an important part of constantly growing as a musician?
Okay, great. First question, what do I listen to? I am spitting out so much music lately that I'm unfortunately listening constantly to my mixes. You imagine at the beginning of the show, you're like, how did you make a record in June and spit it out by August? I'm like, by listening to it every day.
No, your recorded output is insane. Just I counted since 2024. You've got like 6 albums. It's insane.
Yes.
I don't know how you've slept.
I'm a Capricorn, so I take advantage, and I don't take advantage of people. I take advantage of opportunities when they come, and so I've gotten a lot of opportunities to record for free, or at a discounted rate, and in my age, have decided that I don't really care if things are perfect anymore. It's just not indicative of me. And I'm not a perfectionist. I'm a hard worker. I'm not a perfectionist. So I just started spinning out all this content because I realized that I really needed some passive income. And you can make some money with streaming, even though it's the devil. And so I was just like, the more I make, the more money comes back, so I can make more art, and the more I stay relevant to the people who are listening to me. That's just like business. But so that's the first question. The second question was, just remind me.
The second question was essentially, how important do you think it is to the practice of becoming a great musician to have a consistent practice of listening to music?
So incredibly important. I find that the biggest note that I have for myself and for anyone else is that when I listen to music still to this day, if I hear something amazing, I feel immediately inspired to go write or practice or perform or just listen over and over again and cry and just feel the joy of it. And the minute that goes away, is when I'll know that I'm burnt out, or something is the cylinders are not firing on both ends. And a lot of friends that I adore say to me after a concert that they've seen and they adored, or listened to something that they really were inspired by, they're like, I just feel so bad about myself. I feel like I shouldn't make any art. I just suck. And I'm like, no, you have to listen and feel inspired. It's the only way. It's the only way. Like, you can't hold yourself and judge based on something else. It should make you want to create. So the more you listen, if you can reframe to not compare yourself to it, the more you will want to make, or the more healing you'll feel. So I think it's incredibly important. Today I was on the airplane and it was like terribly turbulent. And I find that when I start to get really nervous, I'm like, headphones, music, focus, listen. Like it's a healing. It's healing. So it's super important.
All right. This is something that I know you are recording a ton and you are putting out so much music and it's all amazing. But for me personally, I loved that 2022 albums that you did with the Sonica trio.
Yes.
And I desperately want another one of those.
Tana moved
I love
to
that.
Spain. I was so upset. Like, I actually have ideas for that. I was thinking about making like a Sonica super group, with not just, Tana and Julia and myself, but also maybe like Serentip, and maybe throw some boys in the mix, and just like insane harmonies and electronics, etc. But I have
just the voices together on that album were amazing, and the Stevie Wonder the Stevie Wonder cut, "Love's in Need of Love Today," that is my favorite, and I just love that so much.
I love that you'd. Oh, I'm so glad. That was a really special project.
Well, awesome. I have about 1 minute remaining on my available meeting time on this Zoom, so I'm going to let you go. And thank you so much for joining us. You are amazing. To the extent, however long I have this radio show, we will continue bumping your stuff because I love your work, and I think I think that you are one of the greats of this time. So you're fantastic. Thank you so
You're
much.
amazing. You just
Thank you
made
so much, Nicole.
my year. Thank you so much, Matt. You're incredible. Wow.
All right. Well, and hopefully we will check in with you again, and you will let us know whenever you're coming to Southern California, whether it be San Diego or LA or wherever, and we will we'll find a way to get up there.
It'd be my honor. All right.
Awesome. Thank you. Nicole Zuraitis, everyone. Nicole Zuraitis, multi-Grammy.